Getting the system dialed. Aloha. Welcome to Release Sundays Live. It's probably not even Sunday anymore for many of you. Still Sunday here. Late, but at least we made it. Just figured I'd come on, do a quick little show. Just a quick little something. About the prana, about the breath, about our divinity, our true nature. Thanks for tuning in. Just doing a little mixing while we get a few people in real quick. Always a pleasure. You could tell it's it's a late night release, Sundays Live. The science of prana, of breath, and divine alchemy. We cover this stuff, but we're gonna keep covering this stuff. You know, ironically, this is the same presentation I did for some kindergartners in last week's kindergarten class for my kindergarten class. Oh, I figure if I'm doing it for the kids, I gotta do it for the kids, because we're all kids. I wish we would have all learned this when we were kids. I guess I did. I was lucky. But that's why I feel a moral obligation to share it with you all. So, thanks for tuning in. So much to get into in that regard. What we truly are. This human form of light. Human. Color man. Light man. Light manifested. I'm trying to wrap this show pretty quick. We're going to do a power presentation because I'm excited. The newest episode of The Chosen comes out this eve today. We've been waiting for it. It's been a very conscious day. That's why I haven't been able to get on with you guys. Had a little house church here, going into chapters 3 and 4 of Genesis. Remember, we covered the garden, the inversion in the garden. We went deep into it today. Me and magical apprentices. And then we had a powerful Kundalini class. And yeah, I wanted to bring you all with us, but I felt like we'd go into the science of breath. Because, it was kind of an impromptu transition. Sometimes in the flow, it's hard to set the cameras up where everything is at, and we go right into those sets. But yeah, I wanted to connect with you all. Sat Nam. Thanks for joining us. Really huge call just happened before. I'm kind of giddy. Before we just did the show right now. Really, really big things in the works with a dear brother of mine. Can't wait to share it with you. Okay, first mix coming in. Form of light manifested in body. Remember, consciousness does direct the form. So what is breath? It's that invisible force that connects us all. Aloha, Tiffany. Thanks for tuning in. Late night. Not only does the breath connect and direct consciousness to form, it directs it to a higher or lower frequency. The lower being the ego, edging God out. Rooming with separation, competition, chasing, blame, pride, jealousy, anger, complaining. Oh, that's one of the lower frequencies. Both in the yogic sciences and in the Word of God, it talks about don't complain. Oh, such a lower frequency. It's right there with gossip too. Being oriented to the past or the future. Greed, selfishness. That's a mix. Whereas the higher self is unity, collaboration, attracting, responsibility, love, and happiness for others, fulfillment, gratitude, presence. Being the friend that you always want to have. Are you the friend? Are you, for others, that amazing friend you wish to have? It's a good focus. It's a good mantra. Being that amazing friend that you wish that you had from others, which always brings abundance. Breath work in general, in reflection, is the power to regulate your nervous system by the ways that we breathe, practicing certain breathing techniques such as pranayama, kapalabhati, ujjayi breathing. Double ventilated breathing has been associated with regulating trauma, processing emotions, boosting immunity. So many benefits. Conscious and controlled breathing is one of the many ways wise people throughout the ages have healed themselves as well as others. In fact, we talked a lot about mouth breathers. Did you know it is an epidemic? People breathing through their mouths, it actually distorts the shape of your face even. Your nose regulates the temperature, releases nitric oxide, regulates the circulation. It has a filter as well. It sanitizes the breath. And even though it's invisible, it's right there. It is our conduit between the non-physical realm and the physical realm. It's an invisible force that we have contact with, that we are desensitized to the fact that we're engaged with all the time. It's one of my favorites. That's why we had to use this visual. Beautiful. And your lungs are like tree branches. And when you take deep breaths, and those deep breaths come to a complete, fulfilled state of capacity, the branches close. You start putting out that CO2, carbon dioxide. That's why you have to exhale. So our goal is to pressurize that oxygen into the bloodstream. And pressurizing that oxygen to the bloodstream, into the brain, awakens the brain. And the pressurization of the cerebrospinal fluid, the CSF, activates a series of physiological activations along with a piezoelectric charge that activates the sacred secretions within the pineal and pituitary gland, which combine at the base of the skull and regenerate your cells every 11 months instead of every 7 years. It's the recipe to live as long as you want to. Divine alchemy. These are just kind of some general visuals for the benefits of the breath. Still letting a few people gather in. Saw a flux in and out. Let's transition this right now. Going into another mix. I want a more breathy track, huh? Let's see what we can do about that. This is like a breathing marching track. Here it comes. Everything from releasing pent-up emotions to accelerating a grieving process, clearing past traumas, feeling more joy, more love, more fulfillment, more deep meditation and connection to meditation. These are more of the metaphysical conscious aspects of the physiological process we just described. There's so many benefits, friends. Stimulating brain growth, for instance, reducing the anxiety as we've talked about, regulating the heart rate and the circulation. Cortisol levels going down, epigenetically altering gene expression, regenerating gene expression. Prana means life force, simple as that. The life force sustaining the body or the breath as an external manifestation of the subtle life force. And there's many aspects to building off the pranic energy you're building. Obviously, diet is key. incorporation to the meditation, physical processes of the asanas as well as movement. Oh, everything from, we do holotropic ice breath work. That's amazing. You can apply these forms of different breath work like double ventilated breathing to any workout routine. It's all designed as part of a system of the Raja Yoga system. That's why the system that I teach is called Raja Rishi Yoga. Raja meaning king. Where am I going? Here we go. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do this one. So let's look at the 8 limbs of the king of yogas, of the Raja, this system channeled by the rishis. The Yama Yoga, self-control, righteous living. Niyama, it's about disciplines and moral conscience, the values of moral science we've talked about, which is not objective. It's not moral relativism. There's a constitute of right and wrong. It's in alignment with natural law. Remember, a line of truth, perception, is a wave. If your perception is in alignment with the line and making contact all the time, then you're in a good place. The lower frequency of the wave, the less contact it makes with that line of truth. So we have a lot of people in the New Age deception using the vise, my truth, your truth. No, there is the truth. And if your consciousness and experience aligns with the truth, then great. If not, that's not your truth. That's part of the deception and the Maya and the illusion. The asanas, the bodily postures and physical exercises. Pranayama, which is the advanced breath exercises that can be incorporated with the asanas. Pratyahara, isolating away from the senses, as many yogic practices do. The dharana, concentration and focus. The dhyana, mindfulness practices. And of course, samadhi, surrendering to the divine powers. But it's so much more than that. It's about pulling back from the movement of the mind to become conscious of being conscious. It's becoming consciously aware of your consciousness. Building an awareness of the fact that you are consciously perceiving reality. And you're bringing an awareness to just being conscious. Stepping out of the thoughts, of the cycle of the movement of directed thoughts and sensations from the body that trigger one sequence to the next, to the next, to the next. Bringing this synthesis together moves you into a higher state of divinity that is the true nature. Now, in the yogic system, it's broken up prana into these 5 prana systems or prana bodies. The apana, which is at the physical location of the pelvic floor. This is that root fire. It's about elimination, transformation. The chakra center is the Muladhara. Then you have the Vyana. It pervades through the entire system, has to do with the circulation in the nerves. The Svadhisthana is the chakra center. The Samana is at the navel point. The Dantian in the Tao. It's about digestion, metabolization, nourishment. The Madhupura is the chakra center for that. And of course we have the prana, which is diaphragm to throat, the heart. The chakra is the anahata. And then we have the udana, throat to head. It's about physical senses, mental strength, speech. The vishuddhi, the chakra center. And as we go through moving these energy centers, you can see that this is a good basic breakdown of attributes to each center. The root, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat. Over here. The third eye, the crown. So many aspects there are to look at in the details of how the breath circulates. Thank you. Could you help me with him? He's whining. Thank you, brother. The Panch Prana. This is all about how this oxygen pressurizes and moves throughout the system. So much we could just dive deeply into the aspects that affect the physiological process, the organs. But through the nose is the key. That's what it's designed for. Nasal breathing it does so many things. Regulates the nervous system. Releases nitric oxide, like I said. It generates it, actually. Releases through the nose. It's actually a little spurt that happens. Causes an expulsion of carbon dioxide, influences blood flow, expels toxins, causes a pH balance and regulates the alchemy of the blood, boosts the HRV, boosts the immunity, helps with fat regulation as well as the heart, the circulation, strengthens the diaphragm, conditions the intercostals, brings focus to the mind, and regulates the nervous system, so much more. The conscious awareness of breath, the life force that both energizes and relaxes the body. In Sanskrit, prana means life force. Ayama means extension. It's extending out the life force. That's a basic pranayama breath. And we've broken it up before that you have this linear breath, this balanced inhale, exhale. And then you actually have Kapalabhati, which is variances of this breath. And when I say variances of this breath, it's a forced exhale with a relaxed inhale. It's like recreating a sneeze. It's like a negativity pump for your body. So it's a forced exhale that's contracting with a natural relaxed inhale. Every time you contract, you'll naturally expand. You don't even have to. I always do this because I try to mark the integrations of the expulsion. Here we go. Mix coming in. Oh, come on. That was pretty clean. You know, it's a challenge to be able to do a show and go through slides and mix music. And by the graces of God, sometimes the mixes are just effortlessly. So that forced exhale is followed by a natural inhale. Everything that contracts naturally expands. There's such a power to what this is. And remember, when you're doing it, you have to build that fire. So if you're doing it for 30 seconds and then you stop and then you start again, you lost everything you built. So you got to keep going, build that fire like you're trying to blow on embers to create a fire. I actually used to teach a Kundalini class we call Kundalini Electronica, which we would do this breath work and sync the breath to electronic music like this. It's fun because, it's enjoyable to move to beats and dance, but to do it and breathe, and a lot of the exercises we're using breath and movement together, right? So spinal twists, we're twisting left and right, inhaling left, exhaling right. Right? So syncing in these kriyas with electronic music tended to be really fun to fuel you through doing this for 2 or 3 or 5 minutes or whatever we would set it for. There's such a divine mechanics to how we do this breath. And it can only be polished and refined by practice. That's why the mastery of divine alchemy and the sacred anointing and the Christos process requires practice over one's life. That's the way you train all of your cells to work in unison to create this piezoelectric charge along with this pranic energy to move the ascent to the top, to arc past the capstone at the top of the vertebrae capstone and go through the third ventricle, the fourth ventricle to get to the third ventricle, which you can only access through the right hemisphere. We're going to look into some videos towards the end of this show about both the cerebrospinal fluid as well as this awesome antenna, piezoelectric crystal antenna of our pineal gland. So again, the miracle gas through the nose. This is a really cool little piece. We'll just go through real quick. In 1998, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was awarded to 3 American scientists for their discovery of nitrogen oxide's ability to expand blood vessels. This phenomenon is called vasodilation. Thank you. Nitrogen oxide simply makes the blood vessel walls relax, thereby increasing blood flow. In 2002, a research group from the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, Sweden, found that nitric oxide is formed and releases in the human sinuses. Further, they showed that the nitric oxide concentration in the nasal cavity increases as much as 15 times if you do this breath work or you make a buzzing sound. When you think about chants and or om, it's vibrating through the nasal cavity. So further, they showed that that it creates vibrations, which mixes with the air in the sinuses with the nasal air, and their ingenious experiment discovered that blood oxygenated 10 to 15% more when you breathe through the nose compared to breathing through your mouth. When you breathe through your nose, nitric oxide flows with the inhaled air directly into the upper respiratory and lower. But if you breathe through your nose, it's going to go in the upper respiratory, but if you breathe through your mouth, it's only lower respiratory, so you don't even really get it into that upper respiratory, which is important to do. Nitric oxide flow with the inhaled air into the lungs, where it makes blood vessels in the alveoli expand. This allows a greater volume of blood to pass, whereby oxygen can be taken up. When nitric oxide was given to those who breathed through the mouth, the same effect was registered. This showed that it is actually nitric oxide which mediates the marked rise in oxygenation. Double ventilated breathing is a more advanced form of what Wim Hof has cultivated, but I still have mad respect for him getting awareness out there about it and all of the scientific research about what he does, which is just breathing through the mouth. In through the mouth, out through the mouth. Here's the thing. Here's a more advanced yogic form of it. I want you to try it. Think about when you're upset and you're a little kid. What do? You go like this. Right? What is that? It's twice through the nose and mouth and out through the mouth. So double ventilated. So you can do it really fast if you need to, and especially when we get in the freezing cold ice, we usually do it faster. Right? Okay. And then, but you can regulate it and it can go slower. Right? Okay. Prana Nidra, consciously directing the pranic energy for self-healing. This has to do a lot with when we do the pranayama and we do the breath pressurization. We're going to pressurize it into the bloodstream, and we're going to use a visualization of directing that energy out the top and back through the root like a toroidal field. If you don't do this, you just build the energy at the top. We have to start practicing our psychic ability, which is directing that psychic energy through the field to contain in the field. It's not just a physical exercise that you're seeing here, although this is some of the beautiful examples of why this strengthens the core so proficiently. It's pretty amazing. Almost like it was divinely designed for our optimal self-betterment. Let's keep moving. There's so much to the science behind what takes place with the pressurization of this sacred prana and piezoelectric charge through the cerebrospinal fluid. Oh my goodness. The depth of technology is so cool. It's so far from some metaphysical, spiritual, foo-foo, la-la. I like spirit and science. That's my focus always, is bridging the two. There's so much to dive into with this. I'm going to actually, as we look at these, okay, this is just to give you an example of the significance of what we're doing when we're pressurizing this oxygen through the body. But it's most beautifully described just because it was such a beautiful, the science behind it is so beautifully broken down here in this presentation. They don't have, ironically, as much as some brilliant scientists have studied this, they haven't connected the correlation to the actual practical applications to do what it is that they're talking about, besides kind of generally studying the yogic sciences. And I feel like that's where I'm a big bridge. Let's take a listen.
Rather than the blood. Another fascinating compound that is being studied by a number of people now is DMT, or dimethyltryptamine. Similar to melatonin, it is also produced from tryptophan, but it goes to the tryptamine pathway. What is DMT?
Hang on one second. Let's go to this one first. This is more, well, let's dive into what it is in and of itself of the cerebrospinal fluid first.
Some people, that there is a fluid-filled space in the middle of the spinal cord. Okay? Some people claim that there's actually a really, really, really tiny fiber in the middle of that fluid-filled space that's made of condensed CSF protein that goes all the way from the base of the spine all the way to the pineal gland in the third ventricle. All right, so you have a fiber, you have a fluid-filled space. These are the words from Swami Vivekananda. According to the yogis, there are two nerve currents in the spinal column called Pingala and Ida, and a hollow canal called Sushumna running through the spinal cord. At the lower end of the hollow canal is what the yogis call the lotus of the Kundalini. They describe it as triangular in form, in which the symbolic language of the yogis, there is power called the Kundalini coiled up. When that Kundalini awakes, it tries to force a passage through this hollow canal. And as it rises step by step, as it were, layer after layer of the mind becomes open, and all the different visions and wonderful powers come to the yogi. When it reaches the brain, the yogi is perfectly detached from the body and mind. The soul finds itself free. The left is the Ida, the right the Pingala, and that hollow canal which runs through the center of the spinal cord is the Sushumna. Where the spinal cord ends, in some of the lumbar vertebra, a fine fiber issues downwards, and the canal runs up even within that fiber, only much finer. The canal is closed at the lower end, which is situated near what is called the sacral plexus. Vivekananda mentions Ida and Pingala and Sushumna. These are the three main nadis. Nadis comes from the Sanskrit meaning channel, stream, or flow. And essentially they're the three main energy channels in the body. Ida lies to the left, Pingala lies to the right, and the Sushumna is in the middle or the center of the spinal cord. Some images have the Ida and Pingala doing a helix, where the Pingala starts on the right and ends on the right, and the Ida starts on the left and ends on the left. And at each cross-section of these three energies would be a chakra. A symbol of this would be the caduceus, with the staff of the Sushumna, with the staff as the Sushumna, and the two serpents being the Ida and the Pingala. The heads of the serpent meet the Sushumna at the third eye, or the Ajna chakra. From the words of Franklin Sills, one of the founders of biodynamic craniosacral therapy, the chakra system is generated via an intense lighting up or ignition of the ordering field at the time of conception. In the yogic system, a primary fulcrum called Ajna chakra is laid down in the fertilized ovum, as early as the fertilized ovum. This is located in the third ventricle of the fully formed body. From this organizing center, Sushumna descends, and the rest of the chakra system forms from the bottom up. To me, the heads of the serpents represent the pineal gland and the pituitary, and the Sushumna coming up from the center of the spine represents the tube full of cerebrospinal fluid. All meeting at the third ventricle, this fluid-filled radiant space in the middle of our head, the crystal palace, this cave of Brahma.
Yes.
In this space where the marriage of the yin and the yang energies of the pineal gland and the pituitary gland come to form perfect harmony, it is my belief that it is in this space with the fluid that the birth of this I am, our beingness, is in physical form. Through the dispersion of this energy in the fluid, our entire brain, spinal cord, is simultaneously bathed with the differentiated energy from the source, providing the synchronous, unified experience and awareness of our true essence. Imagine, therefore, fluid bathing the inside and outside of your brain and spine.
This is such a beautiful visual.
Perfect vehicle to transmit information to the brain, whether that is melatonin to help us sleep or DMT to help us have vivid images and experience holistic states of consciousness, or as the fluid conductor of source energy to our physical bodies to transmit the experience of I am, our beingness, as well as be a vehicle for cosmic consciousness, that awareness of the universal mind and one's unity with it.
So, expanding more on the dimethyltryptamine side of it.
Rather than the blood. Another fascinating compound that is being studied by a number of people now is DMT, or dimethyltryptamine. Similar to melatonin, it is also produced from tryptophan, but it goes through the tryptamine pathway. What is DMT? Well, DMT is widespread in the plant kingdom. Trace amounts of it are found in mammals. DMT-containing plants are commonly used for shamanic rituals. It can produce powerful, psychedelic, and near-death and mystical experiences. It's hypothesized to be released at birth, death, and during vivid dreams. DMT has been coined the spirit molecule by Dr. Rick Strassman, who published an entire book on this compound. Interestingly, endogenous DMT is found in the human body. It's found in the blood, in urine, in feces, kidney, and lungs.
Hear that? It's in the urine, too.
It's very interesting to me, however, that some of the highest concentrations of DMT have actually been found in the cerebrospinal fluid.
Mm-hmm.
In 2013, Dr. Rick Strassman published a paper finding DMT in the rat pineal gland. Therefore, the high concentrations of DMT in the CSF, just like melatonin, most likely come from the pineal gland, where it gets released into the CSF and then transported to our entire. Kundalini in yogic theory is a primal energy located at the base of the spine. Some say residing in the sacrum, like a sleeping serpent.
Now, I'm going to pause here because we just have so much more. I have such an amazing video to finish out for you guys on with this. And again, you know, the pineal gland, the third eye, is the most heavily targeted and poisoned gland in the human body for this reason. Because it actually has, when it's open, it acts as a truth detector by being able to pick up on the subtle inconsistencies of lies and subliminal messages that may be used as a veil to conceal true intentions. And again, aligned with that is the pineal gland only functions properly when both hemispheres are balanced in the brain, which you've also established allows for that clear, holistic intelligence. A closed pineal gland means the mind can be easily deceived as it struggles to look beyond what is presented directly in front of it. It's been depicted throughout history. You can see it. They are aware of what it is. But they are compromised, those that control this realm, from being able to access it, because you have to go through the right hemisphere of the brain, and they are chronically left dominant. And that just is what it is. Oh. This is what I closed out my kindergarten class on for the kids, because they kept being like, are we going to watch a video? Are we going to watch it? I was like, yeah, we are. And this is it.
The pineal gland is a neuroendocrine transducer, secreting melatonin responsible for physiological circadian rhythm control. A new form of biomineralization has been studied in the human pineal gland and consists of small crystals that are less than 20 microns in length. These crystals are responsible for electromechanical, biological transduction mechanism in the pineal gland due to the structure and piezoelectric properties. That's a lot of words to digest, but let's break it down into two meaningful points. The key words here are piezoelectric properties and transducer. The piezoelectric effect occurs when you apply pressure to certain materials, and that mechanical stress is changed into an electrical charge. To put it in simple terms, the pineal gland contains calcite crystals made of calcium, carbon, and oxygen, and because of their structure, they express this effect. Like an antenna, the pineal gland has the capacity to become electrically activated and generate electromagnetic fields that can tune into information. That's point number one. In addition, in the same way an antenna pulsates a rhythm or frequency to match the frequency of an incoming signal, the pineal gland receives information carried on invisible electromagnetic fields. Since all frequency carries information, once the antenna connects to the exact signal of the electromagnetic field, there must be a way to convert and descramble that signal into a meaningful message. That's exactly what a transducer does, and that's the second point. A transducer is anything that receives a signal in the form of one type of energy and converts it into a signal in another form. Take a moment to look around you. The space you are sitting in is filled with TV, radio, and Wi-Fi waves that are all different frequency ranges of invisible electromagnetic energy. You can't see any of them with your eyes, but they're still there. For example, the antenna that picks up a range of frequencies carrying a signal to your TV is transduced into a picture on your TV screen. When you tune into an FM station, you are tuning your antenna to a specific electromagnetic frequency. The information carried in that frequency range is then transduced into a coherent signal, which is the music you hear with your ears. The study I quoted says the pineal gland is a neuroendocrine transducer, capable of receiving and converting signals within the brain. When the pineal gland acts as a transducer, it can pick up frequencies above our three-dimensional space-time, sensory-based reality. Once the pineal gland is activated, it can tune into higher dimensions of this space and time, and like a TV, it can then turn the information carried on those frequencies into vivid imagery and surreal, lucid, transcendental experiences in our mind, including profoundly heightened multisensory visions beyond our vocabulary.
Oh yes.
For the pineal gland to become activated, some important things must happen. I will address them now.
Yes, he will. And we have already. But it's always good to hear it again.
The piezoelectric effect.
Boom. This is the science. This is the piezoelectric.
The piezoelectric effect in the pineal gland are the calcite crystals mentioned above.
So this is the piezoelectric, biomechanical, bioelectric, electromagnetic side of the physiological process we've been talking about with the breath work. This is all the inner workings of the mechanics of your divine technology. We've been talking about these practices when you do this breath work, when you pressurize the oxygen, when you pressurize the cerebrospinal fluid, the CSF, down to even pressing the chin back like this. It puts a pressure on the base of the skull. That pressure fluxes the CSF, pressurizes and activates the charge, which stimulates these piezoelectric crystals. This is the inner workings. Let's go.
1. The piezoelectric effect. Critical to creating the piezoelectric effect in the pineal gland are the calcite crystals mentioned above. Remember, these are very tiny crystals, approximately 1 to 20 microns in length. To put this in context, their size can range anywhere from 1/100th to 1/4 the width of a human hair. For the most part, they are octahedron, hexahedron, and rhombohedron in shape. The purpose of the breathing technique we do before many meditations is to pull the mind out of the body by liberating potential energy stored as emotions in the lower 3 energy centers. As we inhale and contract those intrinsic muscles, follow our breath from the perineum all the way up our spine to the top of our head, and then hold our breath and squeeze those muscles more. We're increasing intrathecal pressure. This is the internal pressure created when you push up against your insides. For example, when you hold your breath and lift something heavy. The word piezoelectric is derived from the Greek words piezein, which means to squeeze or press, and piezo, which means to push. When you do this, you are pushing cerebrospinal fluid up against the pineal gland, exerting mechanical stress on it. This mechanical stress translates into an electrical charge, and it's this exact action that compresses the stacked crystals in the pineal gland and creates a piezoelectric effect. The crystals of the pineal gland generate an electric charge in response to the stress you're applying. One of the unique characteristics of the piezoelectric effect is that it's reversible, meaning that the materials exhibiting the direct piezoelectric effect,
This way and
the
this
crystals,
way.
also exhibit a converse piezoelectric effect.
That's it.
Once the crystals in the gland are compressed and are creating an electrical charge, the electromagnetic field that is emanating from the pineal gland causes the crystals in it to stretch as the field increases. When the crystals generating the electromagnetic field reach their limit and can stretch no further, they contract and the electromagnetic field reverses direction and moves inward toward the pineal gland.
Yep.
When the electromagnetic field reaches the pineal gland crystals, it compresses them again, producing yet another electromagnetic field. This cycle of expanding and reversing the field perpetuates a pulsating electromagnetic field. When we inhale through our nose,
That's
and
it.
at the same time squeeze.
And this is why when you do this, you want to visualize the energy and direct it in the field. This is a big thing that's not taught in the West with Kundalini. Everyone just does the physical exercises. They don't do a psychic directive exercise of the energy, so it's not contained in the field. If you're a Kundalini practitioner, try it. Try visualizing a column of light from earth to sky directing the energy in this toroidal field, as opposed to just doing your pressurized exercises with your eyes rolled up to the third eye. You'll notice that you feel charged initially, but it fades over the day, as opposed to if you direct the energy in the field, you will have that energy through the entire day.
Cycle of expanding and reversing the field perpetuates a pulsating electromagnetic field. When we inhale through our nose and at the same time squeeze our intrinsic muscles, we accelerate the cerebrospinal fluid into the brain. As we follow the movement of energy to the top of our head, then hold our breath and squeeze, we are increasing intrathecal pressure. The increased pressure moves the cerebrospinal fluid from the fourth ventricle through a small canal into the third ventricle. At the same time, fluid traveling around the cerebellum compresses the crystals of the pineal gland. By increasing the intrathecal pressure, you funnel a greater volume of fluid into the chamber of the third ventricle, as well as from the space around the cerebellum. So when you hold your breath and squeeze, this extra volume of fluid exerts pressure from both directions up against the crystals, causing them to compress and create the piezoelectric effect. Now the pineal gland becomes a pulsating antenna, capable of picking up subtler and subtler, faster electromagnetic frequencies. This is the first event that must take place to activate the pineal gland. 2. The pineal gland releases its metabolites.
Boom.
On the surface of the pineal gland are tiny hairs called cilia, Latin for eyelashes. The action of the accelerated fluid moving faster than normal through the chambers of the ventricular system tickles the tiny hairs, which overstimulates the pineal gland. Because the pineal gland is shaped like a phallus, the stimulation produced by the acceleration of fluid moving past it, combined with the electrical activation created by an increase in intrathecal pressure in a closed system, causes the gland to ejaculate some very profound, upgraded metabolites of melatonin into the brain.
Did you hear that?
The tiny cilia of the
You got a pineal gland erection ejaculation. What is it ejaculating? It's ejaculating the dimethyltryptamine release. Okay, from the little hair tickles, the Kundalini tickles. Activates that pineal gland.
pineal gland becomes stimulated as the cerebrospinal fluid accelerates through the ventricular system. 3. Energy is delivered directly to the brain. Much like sending a rocket ship into space, overcoming gravity to get it off the ground is the part that requires the most energy, so to move that energy from our lower centers demands a great deal of intensity and effort. As you know by now, every time you perform the breath, you send charged particles up the spinal column. As these particles increase in velocity and acceleration, they create what's known as an inductance field. This inductance field reverses the flow of two-way information that typically facilitates communication from the brain to the body and the body to the brain. Much like a vacuum, the inductance field draws the energy from those lower centers, energy involved with orgasm, consumption, digestion, fight or flight stress, and control, and delivers it directly to the brain stem in a spiraling motion. As the energy travels up through each vertebra, it passes the nerves that run from the spinal cord to different parts of the body, and some of that energy is then transferred through the peripheral nerves that affect the tissues and organs of the body.
Including the polyvagal system from the root, it's activating every gland as it moves up at the same time.
The current that runs along these nerve channels activates the body's meridian system, resulting in all the other systems of the body getting more energy. As energy is released from the body to the brain, it passes by each spinal nerve, exiting between each vertebra. The excitation of this system further switches on the peripheral nerves, which then transfer more energy to different tissues and organs in the body. As a result, more energy is delivered throughout the body. Once the energy reaches the brainstem, it must pass through the reticular formation. It's the job of the reticular formation to constantly edit information going from the brain to the body, as well as from the body to the brain. This formation is part of a system called the reticular activating system, which is responsible for levels of wakefulness. For instance, when you wake up from a deep sleep because you hear a sound in your house, it's the RAS that alerts you and arouses you. That's its rudimentary function. However, as the sympathetic nervous system is activated and merges with the parasympathetic nervous system, instead of depleting the body's stored energy, it releases that energy back to the brain. Once this energy reaches the brainstem, the thalamic gate opens like a door and energy moves through the reticular formation to the thalamus, where it relays information to the neocortex. Now the reticular formation is open, and you experience greater levels of awareness. In a sense, you become more conscious and awakened. Think of the thalamus as a big train station with tracks leading.
I mean, I just want to take a pause, okay? And Tiffany, you are so right. I mean, can we just revel in the divinity of the design of this technology? And for anyone who says Kundalini is an evil thing or demons and blah, 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 I hear so much of this BS from the Christian side, who's, by the way, aware of so many aspects of truth and divinity. But here's the problem: when you don't have enough knowledge on certain things, you become a homogenized recycler of bullet points that have no relevance to true knowledge and wisdom or information at all. And we can see by the divinity of each aspect of the divine design, this physiological science and technology, God created this system and this energy and this process within you. It is not some demonic component. Demonic components, whether you want to look at this Shaitan or Satan or evil demons, the darks, whatever, does not have the ability to create. Only the Creator does. This was created inside of you as a part of your innate technology. It is divine in its origin, and it has never been activated and awakened because we have been retarded. Retardation is the slowing of one's growth or development. This technology is to be unlocked and activated, and it's not an easy, quick process, which we like to look at in the West, like fast food, and like, that's why people get high, is they can just smoke something or drink something. And this is something you must cultivate and develop over time. That's the mastery of it. And you won't get the effects until you have initiated all of your cells to work in unison. I've been doing this for over 25 years, and every time I do it, it gets progressively more refined still and goes deeper and deeper still. It is just like awakening. It is a lifelong process, and it is your responsibility, obligation, opportunity to unlock it.
To the higher centers of the brain. That's how the brain goes into gamma brainwave patterns. Right between each thalamus located in the midbrain sits the tiny pinecone-shaped pineal gland, facing the back of the brain. As a side note, there are two individual thalami in the midbrain, one on each side, which feed each hemisphere in the neocortex. The pineal gland sits right between them, facing the back of the brain. When the energy reaches each thalamic junction, remember the thalamus is like a relay station to all other parts of the brain. These thalami send a message directly to the pineal gland to secrete its metabolites into the brain. The effect is that the thinking neocortex becomes aroused and goes into higher brainwave patterns, like gamma. The nature of those chemical derivatives of melatonin relaxes the body, and at the same time awakens the mind. When energy moves from the body to the brain, a torus field is created around the body. When the pineal gland becomes activated, a reverse torus field of electromagnetic energy moving in the opposite direction draws energy through the top of the head, into the body, from the unified field. Since energy is frequency, and frequency carries information, the pineal gland transduces that information into vivid imagery. When your pineal gland is awakened, because it is picking up higher frequencies, these higher energies alter the chemistry of melatonin. The higher the frequency, the greater the alteration. It's this translation of information into chemistry that primes you for those transcendental, mystical moments.
Yes.
This is why I like to call the pineal gland an alchemist, because it transmutes melatonin into some very profound.
It does. The melatonin turns to tryptophan, tryptophan to dimethyltryptamine. It is a full alchemical process of awakening the third eye. It is what it is to become a divine internal alchemist. It is the sacred anointing. It is the Christed process. It is what Christ was talking about, that all of you through me and what I'm practicing is the way you all have the ability to activate this divinity within self.
Radical neurotransmitters. As higher frequencies and higher states of consciousness interact with the pineal gland, one of the first things to happen is that these frequencies transmute melatonin into chemicals called benzodiazepines. Benzodiazepines are a class of drugs from which Valium is created that anesthetize the analytical mind, so all of a sudden the thinking brain relaxes and stops analyzing. According to functional brain scans, benzodiazepines suppress neural activity in the amygdala, the brain's survival center.
Yes, this is where the
This
fight or
limits-
flight starts to surrender. You start to go into this deeper, relaxed state from this survivalistic state. So the melatonin turns to benzodiazepine, and the benzodiazepine then converts into dimethyltryptamine.
Chemicals that cause you to feel fear, anger, agitation, aggression, sadness, or pain. Now your body feels calm and relaxed, but your mind is awakened. Another chemical created from melatonin produces a class of very powerful antioxidants called pinolines. Pinolines are important because they attack free radicals, which harm your cells and cause aging. These antioxidants are anti-cancer, anti-aging, anti-heart disease, anti-stroke, anti-neurodegenerative, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial. That's a perfect formula to upgrade melatonin's normal role as an antioxidant to the role of a supercharged antioxidant that further restores and heals the body to a greater degree than the melatonin molecule normally does. If you take that molecule and tweak it again into a cousin of melatonin, you find the same chemical that makes animals hibernate. When melatonin, which makes us sleepy and dreamy, alters just slightly into this more powerful molecule, it carries a message to extend rest and repair even further. Because the body is no longer the mind, we temporarily lose our interest in the outer world. And because we have no biological drives and aren't distracted with bodily needs, we're able to move more fully into the present moment and go deeply within. If you take that molecule and advance it yet again, you produce the same chemical found in electric eels, a phosphorescent, bioluminescent chemical that amplifies energy in the nervous system. This chemical can be powerful enough to cause a significant shock. Just imagine an electric eel that literally lights up with energy when it gets stimulated. That's what happens in the brain when it gets activated. Not only does this phosphorescent, bioluminescent chemical increase the energy in the brain, but it enhances the imagery the mind internally perceives so that everything looks as though it's made of vivid, surreal, luminescent light. As a result, people have reported experiencing colors they've never seen before, because they exist outside their known experience of the visible light spectrum. These colors appear as profound, otherworldly glowing lights in a technicolor, lucid, opalescent world of suspended beauty. Everything appears as if it's emitting beautiful light made of vivid, radiant energy that you can feel. Alter melatonin one more time and you produce the chemical dimethyltryptamine, one of the most powerful hallucinogenic substances known to man. When ayahuasca or other plant chemicals containing this molecule are ingested, the body receives only DMT. But when the pineal gland is activated, it receives the whole blend of aforementioned chemicals, and this causes some very profound inner experiences. Some of these experiences have been reported to create profound time dilation, where time appears infinite. Time travel, journeys to paranormal realms, visions of complex geometric patterns, encounters with spiritual beings, and other mystical interdimensional realities. Now, because the pineal gland is activated, we can pick up higher frequencies, which in turn produces a change in chemistry. The higher the frequency we pick up, the more it alters our chemistry, which means the more visual, hallucinogenic, and higher energy experiences we have. The crystals in our pineal gland, acting like a cosmic antenna, are the doorway to these higher vibrational realms of light and information.
Yes, they are. It's one of my favorite videos. It's so beautifully done. I mean, can we just revel in the brilliance of our technology? Revel in the lifting of the veil, the crucified Christ within, This comes from Cullen Smith's Secrets of All Religions. You were taught that Jesus was crucified at the age of 33 between two thieves at Golgotha, place of the skull, by the way, because it's symbolic of the place within your skull between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. Jesus' age of crucifixion symbolizes the pineal column, which has 33 vertebrae, and symbolic Jacob's ladder, the path of the straight and narrow, and the stairway to heaven, the third cross in the midbrain, and the ventricles compose the literal Holy Grail-shaped cavity, the inner sanctum, holy place, which is represented by the manger, and then later the tomb of your skull, which shelters the Pia Mater, the tender mother, Mother Mary, okay, which is going to be, again, which is responsible for producing the cerebral fluid, the salt of salivation, where the chrism is born of the tender mother, and the baptized in the river of Jordan. The spinal cord wanders its life through the nervous system and later returns and is crucified at the 33rd vertebrae, where it crosses the arbor vitae of the cerebellum and returns to the cave, where it is sanctified, made holy, and resurrected or symbolically born again from the cave of the third ventricle, where you become baptized or anointed or Christed, as the cycle continues over again, just as the allegory of the risen phoenix reborn or resurrected from its own ashes after death. Yeah, there's not enough science, right, bro? Yeah, we need more science for that physiological process we just watched. Well, here's the metaphorical breakdown, the allegorical breakdown that's depicted and coded in ancient texts. And you can see, look at the parallel, the paradigm, the allegory of the crucifixion, and the actual aspect of our own structured technology. Wow. It's all right there, and you can empower yourself and practice this. We just did a huge set of this today. That's why I'm geeking out. I'm overjoyed with the brilliance of what it is that we are embodying. And I got a lot of videos on our channel taking you through these practices, even just base sets. There's a great one for boosting your immune system if you scroll back down. It's a really good one to activate because it's all about working on our own vibe, tribe. Stop trying to change others. Stop focusing on the circumstances you can't change. Turn the focus inward. This is the mechanics, and these are the practices to do so, yeah? Let the version of yourself that you were teach you. Let the version of yourself that you are currently comfort you. Let the version of yourself that you are become an inspiration to you. You are the version that you need and needed to be in every phase of your journey. You're right where you're supposed to be. We didn't have sacred role models like Paramahansa Yogananda to embody. I grew up blessed with these role models, but in the Western culture, we didn't have these to give us messages of reflection. Keep your mind engrossed with the divine, and you won't have time to think about lesser things. Now, this is me some time ago. This is another piece of technology to activate, just to show you where the tech goes with the C-code and with these practices. When we wrap these turbines, it actually hits these 6 nerve points and brings the neurokinetics and the blood to the frontal cortex. It enhanced the practices that we've gone through, ultimately balancing the hemispheres, unifying the intellect and intuition, the logic and the creativity to synthesize this sacred anointing to activate our true divinity. And I'm done. That's it. I'm Pal. Oh, goodness. Here, wait, let me do this. Let me get this, where is it? Background? No. Let me see if I have it here. There it is. All right, folks, friends, tribe, yogi, Jedis. That's our show. Just a little quickie, late night, release Sundays live. Appreciate each and every one of you. I'm going to go watch The Chosen. I'm going to go watch the first role model that embodied the true divination of what it is to this sacred anointing. Remember, when your brain, you're using more of your brain, the mind starts to interpret how to manipulate energy into matter and vice versa. You transcend the flesh. transcend. Bring heaven on earth. I appreciate each and every one of you. We'll catch you on the flip side. I got Matrix Body Mechanics live tomorrow. Not even sure. We've got so much to get into.